Welcome to Charles Smith Mentor Talk. These are short videos where I offer practical advice from a mentoring perspective on how to be better in your professional career. I've been a mentor both in the military and in corporate America, and I've helped people navigate difficult work circumstances to achieve success. I hope to do the same for you. The topic for this talk is giving feedback. In my last talk about receiving feedback, I talked about different ways to receive feedback, the different types, constructive and critical, and how to use both to be successful in your career. So I'm talking on this point about giving feedback, and this is important because at every level of your career and at every stage in your career, you have the ability to give feedback. Sometimes it's on a daily basis, sometimes it's not that frequent, but typically no matter what level you are, you're giving feedback of some sort. As a subordinate, you're always giving feedback to your manager or those above you. As a coworker, you're giving feedback to those who are working beside you. Especially as a manager, you're giving feedback to those who work for you to help them be better and your team be better as well. So the bottom line about it is that you'll be in a position to give feedback, but the key is how you give that feedback. And what's important to understand is that how you give that feedback is the key to it being well received and making your team more successful. As I said, in my career, I have been in some unique situations at all three levels where giving feedback has been important. As a subordinate, especially in the military, but even in corporate America, and as an engineer especially, I've had to give advice and tell people who outrank me or who are in leadership over me, that sometimes their ideas weren't good. Sometimes they were dangerous, sometimes they weren't practical, but I had to be very wise in how I did that. As a coworker, I've had to tell people, hey, you need to improve. Because what they were doing was either affecting the team as a whole or affecting me directly, and just being a good teammate, I had to let them know what was going on and help them change. Then as a manager, I've been in charge of a lot of teams, and there have been times when the teams that I've been a part of have not been performing well, and so I've had to let them know they needed to improve also. So it really is a fact that at every level you have that chance to give feedback. So the core lesson you have to understand about this is giving feedback is your chance to positively affect your organization by helping to change a negative circumstance. Okay, if you see something wrong in your team, in your organization, and you don't do anything about it, it could cause harm later on, either to you personally in your career or to the organization as a whole, which may eventually affect you personally as well. Giving feedback is not easy because it involves conflict a lot of times, and most people don't like dealing with conflict. But once again, the key is how you give it, because how you give it obviously goes a long way to how it's received, and that's very, very important. So here's some practical steps. And one of the things that I saw early in my career was the sandwich method of feedback. And basically what the sandwich method is, if you notice a sandwich and take whether it's a hamburger, ham and cheese sandwich or whatever, the bread part is considered the positive. So your top layer of feedback should be positive, your bottom layer of feedback should be positive, but that middle part, the meat, that's where i.e. the meat of the conversation is. That's where the feedback is actually given. So here's what's important. Number one, you should start off giving some kind of positive feedback to whoever the feedback is going to. You need to start off positively because if you start off negatively, that automatically puts that other person in a defensive posture, and it can totally ruin what you're trying to say, to where even if what you're saying is good, it can be taken the wrong way. So at the very minimum, now, what you say as far as the first layer of positive feedback, I can't cover it all here because it really depends on each individual situation. But typically, and let's call the worst case scenario, where you have just somebody who is just terrible or not good or whatever, um, one of the first things to do is start off to say, look, hey, as I noticed your potential, and so this is why I'm going to bring you this feedback. Okay, and this works because even if somebody is horrible at their job or horrible at what they're doing, if you're giving them feedback, to some degree, you at least see potential in what they're doing or what they can be. And so even if you can't find anything else positive to say, at the very least you can say, hey, I see some great potential in you, and because of that, this is why I'm bringing that feedback. Okay, and then you address the issue. And part of addressing the issue is you don't sugarcoat it. Don't be nasty about it, obviously, and especially at work. Be very professional and using tact as how you address it. But you need to be honest with people. Most people, even if feedback is difficult to understand or receive, they will appreciate your honesty, because basically, if you're being honest about it and pointing out to them a serious issue, they'll be able to receive that pretty well. And then finally, you have to end with a level of confidence in them. Hey, I believe that you can do this, and then that way, you started off, talking about their potential. You've hit the issue that's been very rough, and then in the end, you're saying, look, I know this is rough, but I believe that you can actually do this. So it's very important. I have been a part of many teams where this was done, and even though it was hard as far as getting to the feedback, because, let's just be real, receiving feedback is tough, giving feedback is tough. So this is not normally easy stuff, but I've been a part of many teams that have done this. I've led many teams where I've put this in place, and the short-term pain of dealing with the feedback is worth the long-term gain of the team being better, the organization being better, and everybody working out. So I hope you enjoyed this talk. You can hit me up on social media: Facebook, Charles Smith Mentor Talk; Twitter @CS Mentor Talk; Instagram @CS Mentor Talk; and my YouTube channel, Charles Smith Mentor Talk. Have a good one. Bye-bye.